Abusua, mo akwaba e de ba channel so ba like share na subscribe on so bit ma turn on post notifications na bibia ayefe and so o de mama na makudi di nkomo right makudi nkomo pertaining to the celebration of life and a possible contempt and for can was I spoken to some lawyers inteno feedback and I'm there bromo e di nkomo na bibia ayefe so ba like share na subscribe mama. This video might be a lengthy one. It might be boring because we'll be going through a lot of documents and a lot of releases. Now, you didn't come on else video. Stay with me. After completing, I'm sure you get to realize where the thing stands. Rather said a contempt, no, a betting. Contempt will be overruled. And now contempt no be na engine. You'll be there by the end of this video. And so I gossip Ghana TV. The first thing I bet you the opinion Kofi was on a lawyers no. Omo file or court. I bet you no. You should omo file we and here show omo file no. The court no e kan. You should the court no kan we are. Near should the court kan what was the response from the defendants, which is Mami Akosua Sewa and 3 others no. You should no we are near show okay into court no be kan na papa she months be kan no. The other party no what did they see and then what actually happened? I'm not a law person, right? But then I've spoken to law people, I've spoken to lawyers, and then this is what is coming. This is what they are saying. So we'll briefly go through that briefly now. Maybe answer if so here's the first thing. Most of us don't know what exactly they filed for. They filed for 9 things. And your man 9. They filed for 9 things. And your man Kron I'm filing for. I'm filing for and your man back on 9. The first one they say they want a declaration that the plaintiff known as Abusuapanin of the Corner Royal Family of Pakoso and Suta has the sole and exclusive authority to organize, supervise, and approve the burial and funeral rites of the late Charles Kojofusu. The first one I'm filing for say, I'm up say, court may declare say, to pack and all the only rights so about organizing. Obe Shamaya organizing and obe approving obe tiasi or the stamp basis so say nye Ewufusum and a year being from Malumba, the late Charles Kojofusu. The second thing on file is court no a declaration that the defendants a declaration that the burial and final ceremony held on 13 December 2025 constituted the final and valid funeral rite of the deceased under an Akan customary law. Ceremony also almost sign file say a year no more than 13th December no court no engine to non declare say and only the only and a final and a valid funeral rights for your referendum number. But prior to that, to park on Soko UTV, Oko can't some for you could sound common on so yes, so that was the to park and so okay UTV, you know. Away from that, the third thing I'm filing for is that a declaration that the defendants proposed celebration of life. In this case, the defendant, no, Mami Akosua Sewa. The defendant in this case, no, Mami Akosua Sewa, Robert Jemfi, aka Yao Poku, the Fire Poku no, and Estina Fosu, and Ananaya Akosa, aka Papa Shi, Omo, and a defendant, no, in this case, no. And or say the third declaration or the third thing on Busa court, no, say, court no engine general, say, Sanko Fuya, Omo defendant in this case, no. That is the third thing. Court no engine general. Na onchre say Dabi young kind of a declaration that the defendant proposed celebration of life event scheduled for 28th and 29th March 2024 is unlawful, is authorized and contrary to the Akan customary law. Interninche munine also court na on declare say celebration of life now or more person 28th and 29th that was last weekend unlawful with yamra kwan so unauthorized, when you be for the sunshine say, and a contrary to the account law, say any account for Emrano, a boy bra, so continents on Casa. The fourth thing almost some open say an order of perpetual injunction restraining the defendant, their agents, assigns, or privies from organizing, performing, advertising, felicitating, or holding any further funeral, burial, or celebration of life ceremony in respect of the late Charles Kojofusu without express consent and authority of the plaintiff. And on say, also court no sign declare injunction. Abema defendant, kofofo amabo modino. Omo agents, kofo yom agent. Omo nkofo, omo adofo. Organize it. Perform it. Advertise it. Hold any funeral, burial, and a celebration of life. The late Charles could do so without to pack no authority. The fourth on cast on pen no. The fifth thing is that court no ever an order restraining the defendant from using the name, the image, the likeness, or the identity of the late Charles Kojo for any commercial, fundraising, or promotional purposes without law authority. It was a court inside engineers can't order engineers to say defendant for number modeno. On prevent you more use lumba image, the picture, lumba likeness, no look alike and po. And now they no lumba look alike, and now the identity say portrait picture be on me and poem penny. Say I'm gonna buy advert be, I'm gonna register and I'm gonna promotion be without lawful authority. The fifth thing, the sixth and more perfect court no one say an order of interim or interlocutory injunction pending the final determination of this suit, restraining the defendant from proceeding with the advertised event scheduled for March 2026 or any similar event. Also court no and so for injunction to so. I say pending the final determination of this suit. And some person say answer na court no. So court no yanka asem we be so 28 now court no for asem injunction and to so. So ma omonye before so ma kasem na wie. So fine. The 17 case on is an order restraining the defendant. There's a from soliciting or receiving donations from the public in the name of organizing any fund or memorial for the deceased. Or say, court no, and sign general say, Akuswa one and call for treno. Or be a intimate disc, be intimate from public no. Bloomba edimo. The 8th and say, almost I per cost no, including legal fees. On person just almost per a call more bo. A call more bono. Some day as a court no. I'm person almost more, including legal fees. Into come the full canina. I could just one and go for training saying to ya. What I say? And other thing I'm casting open say any further orders that this honorable court may seem fit in the circumstance. Also court no. Also share the person also the babo subiano. Also faboso. Into the court no. A G. The Omikoja court no. Now the big question is that what did the court say? Assembly in a court no being no edituja and no any culture in the next one. And no nam the also no. We air court no full hearing or the buyer. The court full document and a may edit screeners. I'll say in the title in the Superior Court of Judicature. In the High Court of Justice, the General Jurisdiction 2, Accra, held on Wednesday, 25th day of March, before her ladyship, Justice Halima El Awala Abdul Bassett, on an judge, no, and a suit number GJ094-2025. Also, plaintiff, no, Abusuapanin Kofi Owusu. At this point, in that court, no. Regarding after Abusuapanin, so it's fine. Also, versus defendant no 1, Akosua Sewafusu. 2, Robert James AK Wafaya Apoko. 3, Ernestina Fusu. 4, Yao Nanaya Akosa AK Papashi. Parties no ho. Plaintiff represented by John Edu and a defendant present. And a counsel here, Dominic Kojo Osei with Nuhu Umar holding a brief for Fatih Ayala for the plaintiff present, and as Stephen Insin Opoku with Emmanuel Day-to-me Jr. blah 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 on to ruling motion on the notice for interlocutory injunction into background. And our court no on the 18th of February 2026, the plaintiff, which is Tupac, issued a writ of summons and statement against Sir Insemino. And I'll say the plaintiff argues further that refusing the instant application rule causes serious spiritual torment and subject to sa enyoma we nyina into to park no be to park in the appeal court into court no a conclusion na ewo ho enso eni enti enkofa court no a conclusion no or say conclusion and then the 13 no or say thus upon consideration of the process so far filed, the court opines that as between the plaintiff who sued as head of family and the court no say between the plaintiff to pack no sue as head of family no and the defendant, there are obviously serious questions to be tried in respect of the customary law of the parties, which requires preserving the status quo pending the final determination of this suit. The court no person just say there are questions concerning the osio mono. I saw Abusuapanin now. And also, I am guided by the fact that the grant or refusal of an intellectual injunction is discretionary and must be exercised judicially, fairly, and candidly, taking the settled principles into account. In the circumstances, therefore, and in the exercise of my discretion, I hold the equities favor granting the instant application, and the same is accordingly granted. The defendant, their agent, assigns, privies, or anyone claiming through them are hereby restrained from holding. To quote no conclusion, no. I say are hereby restrained from holding. And the bar no. From holding the away that so 13 or anyone claiming through them are hereby restrained from holding any events in relation to the late Charles Kojofosu, aka Dadulumba, pending the final determination of the court. The entry point state must say, or no, say or a judge no, to pack the case neighbor no, or file as a opinion. But what Nishi no more bitch say, customary law no nyoma bi wo ho. But before so the final ruling ne beba no, ono judge no catch a defendant for na mbo mudi no any nkophobia say they are restricted from holding any event in relation to the late Charles Kojofosu, aka Dadulumba, pending the final determination of the suit. And now on the buy the person just say among holding any event be related to the late Charles Kojofosu and sana or the final decision aba 14 or say consequently the court orders the plaintiff, which is Tupac no, to order 25 rule 6 of C1.47 to give an undertaking to pay any damages that the defendant may suffer as a result of the grant of the application if it turns out that at the end the plaintiff was not entitled to the order. So judge no okohwe movie no be hu say plaintiff to pack no enya entitled to sa order, no entitled to say honor be che the sa omonye na to pack no fa na sanction grant ase say obetua eka omobo ye nyina ama omo. Additionally, while an intellectual injunction at this stage will be an appropriate remedy until the serious questions are tried and determined, pursuant to Order 15, Rule 7, blah, 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 I direct the defendants to file their statements and then and so. Oh, so the court, no, at the by any court, was what you say. Or no, dear, only my seminary to say for Fraba say, yes, penny coffee was no. Only Abusuapanin, so he's not entitled to even file for this. Only entitled to file for this now. Or no, when you should work, pen you mark investigation and research about. But so no beba no. Akoja se wan and call for train no, or the diom back court no. Any omom ka hu nyina no, they are not allowed to do any event exhibition of life of Charles Kojofosu. Inti no, and the buy. And by and Papa she the prefect court on our court will be 3rd floor. The prefect court on Papa she be interview no saying. Ne what say and also celebrating on the Papa she be kasai. And after this Papa she interview no kasawi no. And Baba Jaman and associate said that be money no hay. Almost the letter by. Baba Jaman associate letter by no. Almost say the Accra High Court has effective today upheld the application for an interlocutory injunction filed by a client, the head of the family of a corner royal family of Pakoso and Osuta, Abusuapanin Kofi Victor Owusu, aka Abusuapanin to Park. This order specifically restrains Anayo Akosa Papashi, Akosa Sewa Fosu Shendila, Ernestina Fosu Bempoma, Zhao Poku, and the agent were assigned from organizing promotion of blah 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 on 28th and 29th at Independence Square or elsewhere. By upholding this injunction, the court totally prohibits any attempt to proceed with the celebration of life or any such event. The organizers, venue and providers, and active participants are hereby cautioned that they find this order constitutes contempt of court, which is punished by law. We shall not hesitate to initiate committal proceedings against any individual who seeks to undermine the sanctity of the court for contempt. We call for peace and respect for the family and the children at this moment. When also any event titled celebration of life, a court, the kind of court say any event, a celebration of life related to the late Charles Kojo Fosu. So related to Charles Kojo Fosu. But me know him. So Saturday, Omokwe on Legono, at the organizer was celebration of life of Akosia, Mama Akosia Sewa MAS, and Omokoye. Inti Asamno Ejinahe, can they file for contempt with what I have given, with what the court no, the betre no, and with what the Omo and so kind no? Do you think that they can really file for contempt? The thing is that if they are filing for contempt, I'm not sure this is the route they are going to use. They are going to deploy another route or strategy. In this terrain, there's no way contempt can be filed. But as at Endra, lawyer Dominic Kojo Ose must file for contempt. I bet you for very soon. The best will be able to at Baba like Mammy. Subscribe for a bench of our comment section. Macrow, Nenche, yet I'm be share.